Welcome back to the James McGee Show. I am your host. I am James McGee. So yesterday I started on the problem of electing Democrat socialist mayors in our country and how it's a bigger picture. This is being controlled by foreign entities, billionaires. So this is how they're going to, just to give an overview, this is how they're going to take over our country. They're not going to do it from a national level. It's too hard. There's too much bureaucracy and not enough is controlled for how they're going to infiltrate and take over our country and completely change the fabric. Good morning, Britt. Completely change the fabric of our country is to do it on a local level. They started with the DAs several years ago. And now they're doing it with the mayors. There's several examples. I talked yesterday extensively about the mayor in Seattle, Washington, what a complete dumpster fire she is. But the most infamous is Zohran Mamdani. Well, I call him Mamdani. I think it's Mamdani, but he is Mom Dummy to me and always will be. And he reached a different level. So today, by chance, I was doing part 2, and I'm still doing part 2 of it. And he was going to be my concentration. Well, he definitely is my concentration because what broke out yesterday was a shooting, NYPD shooting that happened on January 26th. Okay, so this happens January 26th. I'm going to give an overview of it. I'm going to play the video, and then we're going to talk in depth about this. And we'll talk about some other things. The whole focus today is going to be Mamdani and what democratic socialism, these implants, does to this. I'll get more about him and how he got there, how unqualified he is for this position. But this incident is going to show you how dangerous it is for somebody like him to be in this type of position. So January 26th, in the Jamaica Hill sections of Queens, a 22-year-old Jabez Chakraborty was his family called, a family member called, and police from the 107th precinct responded to the scene. So a 911 call was made by a family member. Described Chakraborty as experienced a mental health episode and requested involuntary transportation. Okay, involuntary transportation. Well, I'll get more in detail. I'm just going to give you the facts. In the audio, the caller told dispatcher Chakraborty was not violent nor armed and that no one was injured at that point. The caller said similar calls had been made in the past when Chakraborty had episodes. Dispatchers told the caller that police and EMS typically respond to involuntary transport calls. And this is what happened in this case. So body camera by police shows that NYPD officers that once the officers entered the home, so they go to the house and they asked to enter the home. Chakraborty picked up a knife and moved towards them. Police repeatedly ordered him to drop the knife, but he continued advancing. At one point, Chakraborty pushed through a glass door the officer had closed and came within a foot of the officer with a knife. An officer then fired his weapon, striking him 4 times. Officers administered first aid on the scene, and Chakraborty was taken to a hospital where he remains in stable condition. So the Queens District Attorney's Office is investigating the shooting. Preliminary reports suggest prosecutors may consider charges of including attempted murder. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani has publicly urged that Chakraborty receive mental health care rather than criminal prosecution. saying the case highlights the need for better crisis response options. The family has criticized the police response, saying the presence of armed officers escalated the situation quickly and that Chakraborty was calm shortly before police entered. They have called on officials to drop the charges and review response procedures. Man, I'm trying to give you the facts, but God, I got so much to say on this. It's so hard just to give the facts without these opinions, but my opinions are coming next. I promise you. I have a lot of opinions on this. So we're going to show the video, and then I'm going to get to the my opinions on this and really shed light on what's going on and why we are here. We are here in this situation because New York decided to elect a Islamic radical extremist who has never had a job in his life and decided to let him be mayor. And this is the result of that.
Chakraborty family, and I visited Jabez in the hospital. And there is no family should have to endure this kind of pain.
Baba, no! Hey, put the knife down!
Okay, so I'm having some technical problems. Let me go back to this.
And as you said, I spoke with the Chakraborty family, and I visited Jabez in the hospital. And there is no family should have to endure this kind of pain.
Baba, no! Hey, put the knife down! Put the knife down! Put the knife down! Put the knife down! Move! Put the knife down! Put the knife down! Put the knife down!
And as you said, I spoke.
Okay, let's get into this. Let's break this down. So if you only watch an audio, the video showed a press conference that Mamdani gave about the incident, and then the other half of the video was what the officers did. So I gave some of the facts. I'll expand a little bit more. So they were called to the scene. The officers arrived. They were very calm. Their weapons were not out. They were very cordial. They asked the person who answered the door, which I'm assuming was a family member, what was going on. They go in, and immediately when they get into the door, when he sees them, the subject, he's not a victim, he is a subject. The subject sees them and grabs a knife that was in his reach. That's a problem in itself. He had a knife in his reach, okay? He immediately grabs it and charges the officers. The officers attempt to de-escalate while they are retreating. They retreat, get behind a door, close the door, and the subject breaks through the door and comes within 1 feet of stabbing them before they shot. So there was restraint, there was de-escalation, and proper procedure followed by the officers. But now it's the officers' fault. The family is saying that they only called for, they didn't call for police. Well, you don't get to make that choice. Involuntary, so you're going to send EMS. This is what people like Mamdani do not understand because they've never done anything. They've never stood a post. They've never had to take a violent subject into custody. They've never had to do anything. He gets to live in the Gracie Mansion in New York and sleep at night because officers like this are going to go put their life on the line in situations like this every single day in New York and every other city in this country. But then Mamdani gets to second guess it, gets to say that they're wrong. Okay. So he grabs the knife and he charges them. And let's go back to the knife. Why would a knife be that close to him? So the family has the responsibility too. So they know that he is, they say he's schizophrenic. This happens all the time. They call for transport. Well, he doesn't want to be transported. So the police have to be involved. And who decides how are they going to just take this? So an EMS doesn't have the authority just to take somebody in custody. They don't have a right to involuntary transport somebody. There's no court order. There's no due process that the liberals are constantly talking about due process. There's no due process. It's just family members saying, hey, he's having an episode. Well, what does that mean? What does that even mean? You don't get to just take people into custody. There's a lot of things that have to come into play in that. And the police have a role in this. Okay, I mean, as soon as he sees them, I can promise you that he had no clue that if that was a police, if that was fire, if that was EMS. It happened that quick. He saw somebody. So if it would have been EMS, okay, who wears a blue uniform like police, watch the video, and you tell me that a person having emotional distress would have known the difference between a cop and EMS. They wouldn't have. So what happens is, what would happen if he charges EMS the same way, who didn't have guns to protect themselves, dummy? Then now you are burying two EMS, two medics, because they can't defend themselves. And now this man's charged with murder. That's why people like Mamdani should not be in charge of anything. The man should not be in charge of a 7-Eleven, much less the largest city in the United States. The police acted appropriately, but who didn't act appropriately is the mayor. He went and visited the subject at the hospital. Did he go visit the officers and see if they were okay? He had an officer stabbed the same day at a school. Did he go visit him in the hospital? No, he went and visited the family, and he went and visited this mentally ill person. But let's get to that. He's mentally ill by whose standard? Who decided that he was mentally ill? Mamdani just jumped on board. Hey, this is a mentally ill person. Well, where's the research? Where's the documentation? There's 1,000,005 mental illnesses now. Everything's a mental illness. So we always chalk up to mental illness. Well, let's chalk up some things to self-responsibility and the family's responsibility. First off, the family responsibility. Why was there a knife in that close proximity when he's having a mental health episode and you called for help and you let him have a knife within hand's reach? I mean, it was not even arm's reach. It was hand's reach. Why was there a knife right there? Why didn't you secure the weapons? You said he wasn't armed, but he had weapons in his reach. So yes, he is armed. But let's go over self-responsibility. Is he on medication? Is he not taking his medication? Does he have diagnosed, documented illnesses that he should be getting treatment for that he is not doing the treatment for? That's self-responsibility. We have taken self-responsibility away from this country. Everything is the government's fault. Put everything on the cops too. We're asking cops to deal with issues that they shouldn't be having to deal with. Yes, I think there is a mental health problem in this country. It's a complete failure. But let's not look at this incident. Let's look at what got here. If you want to solve this problem, Mamdani, it's not I'm having social workers respond to this call. You have 2 dead social workers or 3 dead. However many show up at this call, they're dead because they had no way to defend themselves. Because this person, looking at his actions, any reasonable human being would say that the same thing. If they saw anybody, whether it was cops, whether it was social workers, he is attacking them because he knows what they are there for. He's been through this before. He knows they are there, whether it is EMS, police, social workers. He is there. They are there to take him away. And he knows this. So he is going to kill the people who are trying to take him away. And if it was EMS, if it was social workers, instead of cops, they're dead. The cops are not the problem here. The process is not the problem. The problem is people like Mamdani and the rest of these socialist Democrats who have no experience, have zero business leading a city or in charge. They have no clue. They've never done real world work. They've never been in the trenches. They don't know what it takes. They have no clue about securing a city. They have no clue on what it takes to secure a city. And all these smart people who had more degrees than a thermometer, they can't solve the mental health crisis. So what happens once again? Give it to the cops. You have no choice when it gets to this level and it gets to this point. The cops have to respond. You have a emotionally disturbed person who is having a quote episode who they want involuntary transport. What that is not. What's an involuntary transport? It's a detention. It's an arrest. What? EMS can't do that. Social workers can't do that. Cops have that power in extreme circumstances, and they have the ability to, if it's needed, to get a court order, to get a warrant, or whatever, protective custody order. I don't know New York law, but I understand the law that I dealt with. What we would have to do here is get an emergency protective order. And you know who can get that? Cops. EMS doesn't get that. Social workers don't get that. Cops get that. So if you want to solve this mental health crisis, start way before this. Mamdani, we should. Where's where are the asylums at? Bring asylums, make asylums great again. That's what Donald Trump wants to do. That's where people like this person should be. But when that is ignored and that is not dealt with, and when you have no choice but to have cops involved, then you have to support them. And you're not supporting them by going to the hospital and visiting a person who tried to kill them. What a sick, disgusting human being. So Mama Luke of the day, of course, is Zohran Mamdani, but not for what I just described. Here's another failure. Let's look at the streets currently in New York City. Hold on. I'm sorry. I was getting better. I took a detour, but was getting better at this technical stuff. But here we go. So those of you audio only, I just showed about 8 foot, and it went on for miles, 8 foot of trash, garbage. Because Mamdani could not handle simple snow. Snows in New York all the time. So what happens here, and I'll continue tomorrow about Democrat socialist failures and mayor. This is a crisis. Really not a crisis. It happens every year. New York is very prepared for the snow. What New York? The New York that had experienced leadership. But Mamdani comes in and runs all them off. He runs off the experienced leaders and puts his people. Well, when you elect an inexperienced Islamic socialist, Islamic extremist Democratic Socialist as mayor, what is he going to bring with him? People just like him, incompetent people with an agenda of their own. So, Mamdani, you were Mamluka Day. You're a disgusting pig. So, until tomorrow, we'll be back tomorrow. We're going to continue on Democratic Socialist mayors and how they are destroying this country. Until tomorrow morning, remember, no one's coming to save you, and the world does not give a fuck. McGee is out.